All right, I'll wait.
Okay.
All right, we'll have some others that are joining us a little bit late. I know that we got it. Raina had indicated that she might be a little bit late. She had another commitment that she's going to finish, and she may be joining us later. And I don't remember. Dorinda, it's good to see you. I thought that that might be problematic for you when they were talking about could you share from a phone or something. So good to see you. All right, so I will call the meeting to order at 6:33, and we'll move right along. Secretary, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Oh, that's me.
Yeah,
Sure. Alan Genovese.
present.
All right. Pat, sure.
Here.
Darren.
Karen O'Neill here.
Yes. Jennifer.
Jennifer Coffin here.
Renee.
Present.
Christy.
Here.
Bill Toon.
Yes.
Michelle.
Here.
And Dorinda.
Here.
Looks like we have a guest. Is that Melissa Gary?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
All right.
Don't
So-
forget yourself.
Oh, yeah, he's right. Greg
Oh, sorry,
Snedeker.
yes, Greg Snedeker, present.
Gotta watch it now. Bill's gonna keep an eye on us. That's good. Okay, thank you. All right, so having a quorum, we will move on. There were, we called them minutes on this agenda, but they're not our minutes. They were because we didn't call our meeting to order. We didn't have a quorum, I don't believe, but we had minutes that were taken on behalf of the towns, and they had asked if we would be keeping minutes. So we will, there's a couple minor edits in terms of some grammatical things, but if we send something out to the towns, hopefully tomorrow, we will attach the minutes so that they can, have a record of the meeting as well, or their respective meetings. So we don't have to vote on them,
Okay.
but they're there for information. And any members, if you notice anything that you want to bring to my attention in terms of wasn't clear or any grammatical things, if you can get them to me sometime by mid-morning tomorrow, I will look in my email. If I have any, I'll make those adjustments. I'm aware of a few. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I found 3 people that were missing, but I sent that to Greg, but I didn't know I should have sent it to you.
Okay, can you tell me who they are?
Me, I was missing, but I guess we didn't see the sign-in sheet. Jeff Singleton from the Montague Reporter, and then another member of the Chris Menegoni of the Montague Finance Committee.
How do you spell Managoni?
Menegoni.
Thank you. All right, and those are all from, well, this is is Jeff from the Montague, what's the name of the paper?
Yeah, Montague Reporter.
Okay, and then both of you, and Chris and you are from Montague, right?
Yeah, both Finance Committee.
Oh, okay. Both are finance. Good. All right, thank you for that. All right, so feedback from the meeting. After the meeting, there was a lot of people, that were walking around and talking. And I had received a lot of, positive feedback about the information that was presented in the format. And there was a lot of recognition for the members who have been in this process for a very long time, doing the research, and sometimes not such good conditions when COVID had hit. But we found ways to still get information. And a lot of that information that we got, even in small groups, really had been validated in other forums. And some of it was actually some of the work that Pioneer's been doing in terms of, parents and what they're looking for. So that was good to see. So the next steps for the towns, at the meeting, I had said, I didn't expect, people to start making suggestions about what moving forward or not moving forward. There was just too much information that was presented. And I had put out there, I thought well, but obviously I didn't communicate that pretty well in hindsight, when I said that I would like to get feedback in terms of the towns. If you want to have another all-town meeting, do you want to communicate by email? Would you like us to visit your select board meetings? By the way, David just joined us at 6:38. And Jane Dutcher interpreted that to mean that I was asking for a response that evening. And so she made the suggestion, which was a good one, that why don't we get back to you? And so I had an opportunity to talk with her and understood the miscommunication, which I appreciated. And in that conversation, when I talked about sending something out to
Could be. I don't check its location.
Melissa, who's talking?
I think it's Melissa.
Okay. And,
Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't on mute.
oh, that's okay. That's okay. So in that conversation, in terms of communicating with the select boards and FinComs via email, she offered some suggestions on what could be in the content of that. So I very much appreciated that and made sure that the letter to the select board and FinComs, town officials, included her feedback. So you should have that. Did everyone see it?
No.
So it came as an attachment to, was it by itself, Greg? You're on
For,
mute.
for which one? What are we looking?
The next up is the letter to the select board, FinComs, and town officials.
Yes, I shared it with everyone in the planning board, but if you didn't get it, let me know. Karen, I don't know what's going on with your account. I mean, your account, you seem to be getting emails, but when I share stuff to you, it doesn't
Yeah.
share with you for some reason,
Yeah.
which is very strange.
Those, if there's an attachment, even though you've emailed back and forth, it will pull into junk. I had that happen several times. And so
You
just
might wanna
make sure
check
you are checking.
Make sure you're checking
Ah.
your mail. Yeah, because
Oh,
I am sending it to you, everyone on the planning board. I
I did not know that. You want to put it up, Greg?
Yeah, I can. Give me a second here.
I'm pasting it in the chat for Karen too.
Oh, okay, well, that'll
thank you.
work too. You want me to pull it up or not?
Will that be helpful to members or no? How do you want to proceed on this?
You want to have it up?
It's a quick enough
Can you,
read.
I just requested access. I don't have access to it.
Here,
So maybe
Yeah.
sharing is best.
Bill, what do you, oh, okay. There it is. It's a fairly quick read. Can you move it up, Greg?
yep, everybody had a chance, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And just pause there for a minute. That was some of the feedback that I got after the meeting, where they said, this is good financial information. although last year, and I forget when I think it was in October, we had a forum in Berniston, and we went over some of the educational benefits that we saw and the learning opportunities for kids. The point was made that probably would have been helpful to spend a few minutes on that, just so we could have connected the dots a little more and be reminded of those additional learning opportunities. So in hearing that, that's the point of why it made it into this letter, and then directing them to the presentation. Did everyone have a chance to look at them? You're going a little quicker.
Yeah,
Okay,
I,
go ahead, Karen.
I'm just wondering why here challenges are not addressed. Again,
They didn't
Well, we
ask for, they didn't ask for challenges. They asked for the opportunities. That's why we send it out to them.
okay,
The link to the PowerPoint lists both the what we consider to be benefits and the challenges, which we do link to. But specifically after the meeting, they said it would have been nice to see like what are the why, what are the opportunities that a merged district offers, so that we can see it through the lens of what the assessment is and what the opportunities are. I mean, these opportunities, are concrete. It's like they didn't ask for the challenges, so we put this in there. I mean, the challenges are there in the PowerPoint.
okay, thank you.
Greg, I didn't get that either.
What's that?
This letter.
Okay.
This is Michelle.
Well, I'll
I
follow
have
up
the
and make sure.
October 8th letter, but I'm just looking under you and I don't see it either.
Yeah, would it come today?
Oh, it would have come today.
Yeah, no, Alan didn't
Oh.
finish it until today.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
respectfully, I usually don't have time the day of
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
to read
For this
things.
one, it's just, this is such time sensitive that we have to get it out to try
Okay.
and have them give their feedback before it goes on. We don't want it to be too far in the distance of the meeting, and we're getting into the holidays.
All right. I have it. You don't have to send it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I had one person contact me and asked when this would be going out, because I said we'd reach out to them. And I said, well, I was planning on doing a draft for the planning board, but after I hear their comments, and I said, but I will put something together and get it on the agenda. And so that's what I did.
Mhm.
So that's it. And it's, if you had a chance to read it, I tried to make it concise. One person said, just try to be right to the point. So it hit all the major points. And like Bill said, it's a quick read. So one of the things that will be helpful, if they say they would like to have us come to a meeting, I will do what I can. Obviously, I will make arrangements to be there. But if the representatives from that particular town are able to, that would be great to be there as well. So we'll see what the response is. One person also suggested that in a very, how does she say it, is in a very diplomatic way, try to let people know that you need this information as soon as possible because of our timeline. So I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. So that's it.
Mhm.
Want to take that down, Greg?
Yep.
Or whoever put it up.
There we go.
Right, so you have seen it first. And I think the only thing that will be added to it down below will be or maybe in the email, Greg will say attached are the minutes of your collective meeting or something like that, because they call to order. And so we'll send this along with a letter so they can review the letter and they can review this. All right. All right, next item. So how do you think, I listed a number of ways we could reach out, meet with them, email, which we'll be doing, another all-town meeting. I don't know if they'll have an interest in that, or a combination of all of the above. So I guess in their feedback, we'll find out what their preferences are and what they want to do. Your thoughts? You
I think they're going to just give us feedback through email, and if they want to call, they can call. I doubt they're going to want to do another meeting, just because this has been going on for so long. Most of them understand the issue, just wanted the updates on the assessments, and I think they're in good shape.
All right. Well, yeah, I just want to make sure that if they would like to have a follow-up and sit down and talk, that, you know, we have that out there as an option. And not necessarily collectively. I was thinking they, you know, there's still an opportunity for a couple of meetings with either FinCom or the select boards between now and the 28th. So if they want to do that, I'm good. So a little while after our meeting, Michelle brought to my attention that the FERCogs had a report that they put out, and I think someone brought it to her attention. I haven't been able to find the link. I was hoping that.
Oh, it's on.
Go ahead,
oh,
Michelle.
shoot. It's on the FERCog website, the Donahue Institute.
Let me write that. You want to talk about that a little bit, Michelle? Because I found that very intriguing.
Yes, so as the town of Leiden is very well aware, we are not having a lot of children come to town. Our town, I just got some data today from the town clerk that between 2018 and 2023, there were only 5 births. I didn't ask him for a breakdown. Is that 1 a year? Is that 0 for several years? You know, I can get the breakdown. What is happening in Leiden is there's not, you know, many homes for sale or much more room to build any new homes. And the homes are going well above the sale price. A lot of them are going above and at the asking. For example, there was just a large piece of property with a barn, an older home. They were asking $815, they got $825. The people that are moving in do not have children. They're a lot older. So Leiden is really, the select board and FinCom is really looking at demographics of our area and the future in a lot of areas. A lot of the focus is on the elderly, but when I received this report on age and dementia-friendly communities, it starts by saying that by 2030, 1 in 5 people in the United States will be 65 or older. In Franklin County, this demographic shift is particularly rapid. While in 2010, only 15% of the local population was over 65, by 2030, that number will be 34% of the population, in contrast to 22% of the Commonwealth's population. Some Franklin County communities are already at or above this percentage. And I have all kinds of information on data that anyone can go and find from the Donahue Institute. This report came out in August 4th of 2023. And I'll just read one other thing. The age group experiencing the largest number of out-migration in Massachusetts is age 25 to 44-year-olds. Now, this is the population that will be having children. Within this group, New Hampshire was the state most former Massachusetts residents moved to, followed by Rhode Island, Florida, Virginia, and Maine. It talks about pays, and it really talks about a lot of out migration and how, because there's no jobs, we are not going to be getting young people to move into the area. This report is amazing. I think it's 50 pages. It also shows per pupil expenditure in public elementary and secondary schools in 2022. And we're just about at $22,000, $23,000 per student in Franklin County. This kind of data makes, towns pause when you're planning for the future. And what should the towns be planning for the future? And so I think that we as a planning board should be thinking about the future also. And what are the towns going to be willing to pay for their schools? I cannot, for Leiden to go up to $25,000 per student, I think, because I'm hearing this from various people, I think they'll want to look for alternatives. It's awful to say, but there's a lot of people that really want to see alternatives. As a matter of fact, at that meeting, the chair of our FinCom, you heard her, she wanted to see one elementary school in half of Franklin County. I know that's not possible, but I think we started this so long ago that and we're just looking at particular data, but I think we have to look at all of everything that's going on in Franklin County and the cost of everything and who is going to be paying these bills. It's going to be the elderly on fixed incomes for the most part.
Or the people buying the $800,000 houses.
Well, yeah, one of the things
Yeah.
though that you mentioned, Michelle, and it's true, it used to be that you could get starter house, young families, young couples that were having kids the houses were such that they could, afford to get sort of a smaller starter house. And then, kind of advance from there as they got more secure and advanced in their positions and stuff. So we have a generation that's actually probably going to have less than, their parents had, but they're being priced out of the market to be able to afford, starter houses and families and so forth. I think that's the other reason why the younger generation is having fewer kids that, used to be with the baby boomers, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 kids. Now it's, they look at, I forget the number, but it's well over $1 million, it seems, per kid to raise them and educate them. So, there's a lot of other things going on. Greg?
Yeah, I mean, Michelle knows I'm on the FERCog Council, and yeah, there's been a number of studies in terms of population migration throughout New England, and there's an issue of a serious issue of housing shortage, as we all know. There's not, we have gone down this route over the last 20 or 30 years of keeping our towns rural and putting a lot of land into chapter and APR, and so that land can't be developed, and it's put upward pressure on real estate prices, and then Alan, you're right. I mean, those days are gone. People are not having 4 kids anymore. I mean, it's a shocker if you run across somebody who has 4 kids and you sit there and like, what? You have 4 kids? Where that used to be the norm. It's both these districts that we're talking about, we all know they peaked in their enrollment in 1996. This has been a long decline. It's not something that came, that just happened. So it's been going on for almost 30 years, which is why we're here. Yeah, I mean, the college education is expensive, healthcare is expensive, housing is expensive, and so people are making the adjustment and not having a lot of kids. I can speak for myself. I have 1 child because of that.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, and we'll move on, that my daughter, attended Pioneer, got a great education in the 90s, but the opportunities that they had were significant, and there was a lot going on, both in the academic area as well as extracurricular areas. She was in debating club. I don't, so just to say that to be a part of a school committee, which I was on, and then watch over time opportunities shrinking for kids, it was hard to see, but it was a result of the declining population and the budget constraints going on. So there were factors that obviously led to it, and people tried to get creative, I thought, to address that in various ways over that period of time.
And one other point I just wanted to make, after being at that meeting in November and listening to the comments and what people are concerned about, most of us here are from the school side of it, and we're not from the town side. And so we really need to understand when we hear these comments about why didn't you go further? Why didn't you? Why didn't you? That wasn't our charge from the beginning. And now a lot has changed. And I think we have to look at this from their eyes too, more globally, about the costs of things and where the future is going. That was the only point, because we hear it all the time in the town. You can't increase our taxes because, well, there is going to be a because. I think that's coming around the corner for all of us.
Yeah, Michelle, I would only add with that, as you know, and as I know, being on the select board, I mean, regionalization is happening, police, fire, ambulance right now, for all these same reasons, because your cost structure is just going to go up. Your wages, especially with police, with the bridge, the new bridge system where they all have to be qualified to do full time. Small towns are not going to be able to find part-time officers probably within 5 to 7 years. They're going to age out, and you're just not going to be able to have them. So we're already looking in Gill. We talked about this last night, regionalizing, doing a feasibility study on regionalizing police, because we have to. I mean, the writing's on the wall. It's going to get too expensive, and we're not going to have the same kind of service. So again, regionalization on a select board level is usually hardly ever about saving money. It's about maintaining services and expanding services, and hopefully keeping your cost equal. So,
Right.
Yep. Bill?
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to add in all of this discussion, you may be talking about per pupil expenditure, but you're not necessarily talking about the impact on town finances, because you could, if you pass the same budget one year for 2 kids and the next year there's only 1, you've just doubled the per pupil expenditure and you haven't changed the system at all. That's the net effect of the demographic dispersion that we're seeing. And the real issue is in this regionalization and talking about budget effect for the towns is going to be the change in proportion. Montague's proportion is going to decrease, so their required payment may go down, whereas the town of Gill is going to go up because we'll be a different percentage relative to the other 6 towns than we currently are to the town of Montague. So, you know, those are the kinds of fluxes that you're going to see, not necessarily the number of students that you have from a particular town. And when you get into that idea that your town is being abandoned of children, perhaps, if you have 1 student, it's still the obligation of the taxpayers, the landowners, to fund the budget. And the budget is tightly regulated by growth, new growth, and 2.5% of the previous year's budget levy. And then you have the override issues and debt exclusions, which affected a different way. I'm sorry, I'm talking about this from an assessor's point of view because I am one, but also I've been involved in town government for a long time, including the finance committee. So I understand all of these issues, and what concerns me more is the disconnect from all of that process to the general with the general population, that a lot of people are not understanding how the impact is going to be dealt with, or how their town budget is in fact raised or lowered every year. As property values go up without a budget change of great degree, your tax rate is going to go down.
Right.
Yeah, Bill,
Anyway, that's part of the mix, and thank you for listening.
Bill, the only thing I would add, and I was an assessor for years too, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But I would only add that the one thing you left out, which is we have a state mandate that we have to offer education. So it's not like we can just, say, well, we only have 1 kid, you'll have to go somewhere else. I mean, it's a state mandate in our
It's
Constitution.
part of the Constitution
Yeah.
written by John Adams.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think Bill made that point in his comments, which I really appreciate, Bill. The other thing I just want to point out, we are fortunate that on this committee, and I'm just looking at the people that are at this meeting, that people have more than one role. Some people on the school committee, on this committee, are also finance committee meeting or boards of selectmen. And I didn't know Bill, an assessor, an educator and a parent, a town coordinator. So I think this committee does represent a greater perspective than just the educational component. And we're blessed because of that in the work that we've been doing.
I just heard that that you have to have a school district, or you don't. There are a number of communities in the state who tuition their kids out wholesale across the board.
Yeah.
So I've come to see the low school age population as an opportunity, not a curse, especially if you were a member of a district like Pioneer, which is in hold harmless and won't get any money as a result of growth until they double.
Right.
Yeah. So, thank you for those comments.
Renee's got her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where's Renee? There you are. Hi, Renee. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm using a new device. Yeah, I may be pushing us to the next item, but my takeaway from that meeting was there was a lot of great points raised, but our dictum was our dictum. Like what we started out to look at was what we had to stay in those parameters of. I love some of the suggestions. Again, I've said this before. I said it at the Pioneer meeting. I'm not opposed to mothballing a building, but that wasn't part of our charge. So I truly feel that we need to move this to a vote. Like we have done this work and collected feedback, and we should be ready to move. I mean, if give another section of time, give one last push. I do not think we need to avail ourselves for any more feedback. I think the feedback we received was useful. I think we've done what we were set out to do, and now it's time to call it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, thank you, Renee. And I'm hoping that at our next meeting, we would do that. I'm trying to honor or have some integrity with what I said at the meeting, was to give folks an opportunity, since they were getting an abundance of information that evening, and seem to want to have an opportunity to just provide some feedback. They may choose to, they may not choose to, but I think, in all fairness, to my comment, that we should give them a little bit of opportunity to do that. And that you did a beautiful job in moving us to the next item, which is setting a date.
Alan, Dorinda has her hand up too. Just calling it out. I know it's hard for you to see everybody. Just want to let you know she has her hand up.
Oh, yeah, Dorinda,
Oh, yeah,
thank
it was
you.
just a quick question about who does vote, like the 11 people, because like 2 from each town and then 1 from Montague, because no one else besides me. So is it just the 11, or are there additional voters, like any school committee or anything else?
So the voters, when we have our meeting, we're hoping for a full body of people that are members, and it will be the members on the planning board that will vote whether or not we should move this process forward, and then do an RFP and have a consultant come in and put together a regional agreement with the towns, and see if they can come up with something people can agree with, or we vote not to proceed, and we make a, either way, we'll write a position paper, to the towns on our decision. So it will be us. Does that answer?
Yeah, is it I guess then it's helpful to have 11, because we won't have like a split or something. Is it majority, or is it 2/3 or anything?
It'll be 17, not 11.
So who are the other people? Because there's 2 from each town. Is that also the school committee?
There's 3.
There's
There's
3 from each town?
Well,
Yeah.
3 from each
Alright.
town, supposed to be
There's
18. I think we have 17 total right now, because we're missing one from Montague. Are we missing one from Warwick too?
Yes, you
Are we
are.
missing
Maggie.
2 from Montague? Who's from Montague besides me?
No. Excuse me. We're missing. I said 1 from Montague, but I don't think. I think we actually do have 3. It's just 1 has not been coming. So,
Yeah.
And Lynn's not here tonight, but so I think Montague has 3 representatives. So it's 18, supposed to be 18, which was what we started with. We're down 1 from Warwick, so all 17 would vote.
And
We're
then
down from, we're
Go ahead,
down from
Michelle.
Leiden. Leiden only has 2 people.
Really?
Karen, if you're talking, you're on mute. I don't know
Oh,
if you're
wait.
mumbling under your breath at something, or if you were trying to talk out loud.
Wait, who are your I mean, it's you and Steve, and isn't there somebody else from Lyden? Karen,
Wait a
aren't you
minute.
Lyden?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Steven.
3. I was like, why am I like
3.
Karen? I thought Karen was Lyden. Of course, we have 3 because Steve's not here
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, Steve Richter.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
God, you guys are
That
here.
was what I was
Sorry, I forgot. He's been, yeah, he was from beginning. Okay.
Yeah, he's been at every one of our meetings, but he had a conflict this evening. So to my knowledge, we're down 1 at Warwick and 1 at was it Montague?
Montague.
Yeah, and then we had a non-voting member, Dorinda, from Irving, who really was an active participant in all our meetings. And then we had a changing of the guard in another member that has attended some of our meetings. But that's a non-voting member. So
Okay.
so moving along with
So,
oh, go ahead.
Dorinda had another question. Is it a majority vote? How does that work?
Yes.
Majority. Okay.
Yeah, didn't we establish, someone's gonna have to
It's a
refresh
simple,
my memory.
simple majority.
Yeah,
And actually, when the towns, if we proceed and choose to move forward, it's not a 2/3 vote at an annual town meeting. It would be just a simple majority to, if, you know, for instance, if we choose to say we want to move forward, it's not a 2/3 vote. I did check into that. It's just a simple majority.
The other part of the other, excuse me, the other part of that is the question is who gets to vote? And the real answer is the members of the quorum that are present. And then it becomes a question of whether or not the quorum provide, the majority of the quorum establishes a yes vote or
Mhm.
an equivalent majority of the whole. So if you had a quorum of 11 people and you needed 11 to pass it, it would have to be a unanimous vote in that instance, because the other people aren't there and you can't vote unless you're in a meeting.
yeah, yeah. Um. So let me unpack what you just said, because if we're doing the Robert's rules, I think unpacking what you said, Bill, is it would be a majority of those present. It's not like a regional agreement that is a majority of the membership that it's written into an agreement. It would be a majority of those present voting.
Right, it's the rules of the people that are present that form the quorum.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there's two places on the agenda that tie together. There's number 12, which says potential meeting dates. And I guess since I asked the towns to get feedback by the 28th, I guess that one's out. So it was January 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, or any dates that you have. So there's that, and then there's the time frame that we are on agenda 5. So what is your thought on any of those dates? Renee, do you, since you started the discussion and led us here, do you have a preference? And then we'll start looking at calendars.
Nope, I think I can make any of those January dates work.
Bill, do any of these conflict with the school committee meeting?
My next school committee meeting is the 28th. And then, I take it back, is the 19th of December. And, I don't have, January is pretty much open,
Okay,
but I would
And then-
imagine our next school committee is the 9th.
okay, so we would have met. Karen, when is the Pioneer School Committee? Are those dates okay at Pioneer?
Yeah. Unless we have budget subcommittee that night, Michelle.
Let
I
me
don't
go
have-
get my phone.
Looks like
I'll be,
I have January 4th for a budget subcommittee for Pioneer.
Okay, so that wouldn't work.
So then we're looking at the 3rd. What is the 3rd? What day of the week is the 3rd?
Wednesday,
Thank you. Okay. What does Wednesday look like for folks?
fine.
Good?
After 6:30 is fine.
Okay. Oh, Raina joined us. Thank you, Raina. So she came on board at 7:16. Some really good discussion. I hope you have a chance, Raina, to watch the video. 17. So it looks like the 4th is the date. Now I had thrown out there some, the 3rd, I'm sorry.
Third.
The 3rd, thank you. Hey. And I just threw out there a thought before that I want to circle back, and it's your meeting, so you can decide. Way back in November, I think it was the 19th, in 2019, we met at the senior center, And we had our first couple of meetings there, and then COVID hit. And then we started doing this remote thing and all trying to figure out how to make it work. Does anyone have an appetite to, no pun intended, because we could have a pizza party or something, to have an in-person meeting, to have the deliberation and talk and then come to a vote? That's the way we started. I thought it might be nice if we ended that way, but that was my just kind of a sentimental feeling I had, because we haven't had the camaraderie that we've done the best we could through Zoom. So I'd be interested in people's feedback on that, and then we'll decide if it's remote or in person. Don't all speak up at once. I mean,
My
you won't hurt my
attitude-
feelings. I'm just trying to figure out how, how do you want to do that last meeting?
I
would
think it's
do
very
an
appropriate to
open
meet in
meeting
person.
And wear a
Yep,
mask.
And if people are uncomfortable, put a mask on.
Yep.
I had several people talking at first. So Renee, what did you say?
I said,
Raina?
I think it's very appropriate to meet in person for this meeting.
Okay, and then I heard Bill was saying something at the same time. What did you say, Bill?
I
Or
would
no?
say that too, and then I have any qualms about it, I would wear a mask.
Okay.
Where
Was
would the
someone else?
meeting be held?
Warwick.
Well,
No.
we
I
met
asked
at,
because I have a commitment until 6:15 and I could be online and ready at 6:30. I'm just one person, but that's why I said the 6:30.
Well, for a
Yeah.
vote, though, we really do want to have every member for a vote. I mean, we really don't want anyone to be not present at that meeting. And we also, we want to have it in person because inevitably this will be a big deal and the press will be there. So.
well, how about we move the meeting to, well, I was thinking that since we had met in the senior center in Montague, that's where the meeting would be. We could have it at 7. I mean, nothing says we have to have it at 6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could also be a Gill. I could be the Gill at 6:30. I think I'll be in Greenfield. So if it's local-ish,
It's easy to get to the Montague Senior
Yes.
Center.
that's fine.
Would-
It's 6:30 there is fine.
Would it be appropriate to have it in the other district than where you had your other, you know what I'm saying?
You
I don't
mean, what?
I don't think it matters. I mean, it's just a
Like-
place. It's just a senior center.
Okay.
So
Did you?
what senior center are you suggesting?
Montague.
Yep.
Yeah.
Montague,
Oh, okay.
Turner's.
I think it's on Fifth Street.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have a date and we have a place. How do people feel about ordering pizza and some chips and some drinks and stuff? I can coordinate that if you want to
Who's
break
writing
bread.
who's writing the grant for that?
That's in the grant.
Okay.
We haven't used any of it. Well, we used some of it for water and for things for the kids when they came together.
Mhm.
And they devoured everything we brought,
I'm
the
sure.
cookies, the pastries.
I hate to be a naysayer, but should we have a snow day?
Ah.
Good
Might
point.
not be a bad thing.
Michelle, leave it to you to think of that. And that's probably a very good point.
Mhm.
So Wednesdays seem to be better than Tuesdays and Thursdays. What's the following Wednesday look like?
Fine.
That'd be the 10th.
Forecast
if we
is
don't do it
sunny
on
for
a
me. I'll be on a cruise, so it'll be forecast is sunny for me.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
And I don't do Wednesday meetings. I'm willing to agree to one, but not 2 in a row. I'm willing to play roulette, but I would just assume this, not have this Wednesday. for
You
the
know,
second.
I have a colonoscopy the next day. That will not work for me.
Mm. The 10th. The 10th.
Well, the pizza wouldn't work, that's for sure.
Yeah, and David, it's one or the other. It's not both, obviously.
I know, but it's if it's both Wednesdays, it's guaranteed that it's going to happen. I'll be praying for snow.
Oh. Someone want to put out another date? I thought we had it almost done. So what was the, wait a minute, before we move on, was that, can you give me a thumbs up if you want to have food? Or a thumbs down, or you don't care, can just be, I don't know, just put your hand up if you don't care.
Yeah, if it's gonna be later.
Renee,
Yeah.
you're sort of a maybe. So I think we said 6:30.
7.
We,
7, we said 7.
7
okay.
o'clock.
Well, I had moved it to 7, but then I thought I heard Jennifer say I could make 6:30 if you wanted.
If
so-
it was in Gill, she said.
And that's where it's gonna be, right? That's where we're planning to have
Oh,
it?
no, it's in Montague. Turner's.
Oh, well,
Senator
I
Turner.
Googled it. We're good. It's like 8 minutes.
Yeah,
I did a
Turner's
quick-
Falls. It's close.
Yep.
So
30?
6:30 or
6:30.
7?
6:30.
6:30. Okay.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard. Okay.
Question. If we're looking for a second date where everybody can make, since this would be, we're taking a vote, is it out of the question to be able to do like a Saturday when everybody has off? You could do like a Saturday morning. I'm throwing it out there because, I would not suggest it if it weren't for trying to get
Yeah.
everybody available.
Good idea.
Fine by me.
Right. Not a good idea for someone with 3 kids. Like it's a
Yeah.
good, it's not, weekends are.
Sure. No, I'm just throwing it out there. I just didn't know.
Well, let me throw this out there,
So-
since
What
we're
about-
throwing things out. What would happen if our backup plan, as much as I wouldn't want to do this, but I'll just throw it out there. What happens if our backup plan is we meet anyways via Zoom on the 3rd, if there was a snow date?
Mm,
Oh, I see. Yeah,
That's a pretty good idea.
Smartest way.
yeah.
As long as the internet is up, huh?
I met my daughters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
Um,
Thursday of that same week work? Is that not a school committee week still? We're still early, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So would Thursday of that same week in person be work for a snow day for people?
Yeah, would work for
well, I
me.
thought I heard
No,
someone say
the-
they couldn't make the
The
4th.
4th is a budget subcommittee
Oh,
meeting.
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's,
So it would conflict with that, but
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
yeah,
Um,
Fridays are out for people.
It's district agreement too, budget and district, so.
hmm.
Okay.
So,
So we're on the 3rd and we're praying that it doesn't snow. Otherwise, we're doing a remote is what I'm thinking we're hearing.
yeah,
yep.
Okay.
Otherwise, you bring your own pizza and you hold it up and you show people that you have. pizza.
There you go. Or I'm stuck with all this pizza and I'm going around making deliveries.
In the snow. Yeah.
Like
You'd
Santa
never-
Claus.
You'd never find me.
Oh, I hope things go well for you, Karen. Let's see. So we've got our time and date, and then the rest is pretty self-explanatory. I think it helped to explain that a vote to move forward, because some people thought that we were actually in control of if we move forward, it's
Hmm.
that's it, we're doing it. And I had some people come up and say, oh, I didn't realize that you're making a recommendation, and then from there
Mhm.
you put together a regional agreement for people to take a look at, and the voters would decide. And I said, yeah, that is the process. And I said, okay, well, that's how you got formed. That makes a lot of sense. So I said, okay, well, so I think we cleared that up, that misunderstanding up. And I don't know if you've got similar feedback that people didn't quite understand what that meant when we make a recommendation. All right, we're on. Public relations, right? So we have Jennifer and Dorinda together, and I kind of, if you could sort of look at 8 and 9 together, and we do that because they overlap so much, it makes sense to. So who do we want to, I'll leave it up to Jennifer and Dorinda to take charge of where we go.
Yep. I can share if Greg lets me, I think, or you admin.
Yep.
And then Jennifer, if you can share your comments that you had in the email too about, or one of you about being able to track. I don't know how that internet works, so it was nice to know that you sort of get some idea of.
Yeah. And then
Business.
Dorinda, whatever you found is great. And then if I feel like I can fill in, I absolutely will, but I'm sure you're super versed in it.
All right. So we have our Facebook page. I'm just posting sort of one thing a week from our FAQ. And then we can see for the posts, we can see how many people, we only have 24 followers, so not a ton. It hasn't changed much. I'm not sure if those business cards went out to the different towns, like if they actually got around or not. We can see how many posts things reach. They're mostly reaching the people who are following. Maybe someone else sees it if they see that someone likes a post, for example. But mostly I'm the only one liking the posts. The ones that reach a lot of people were shared with, I shared it with the Positively Gil Montague, and I shared it, I don't know, I forget what other group I shared it with. So the ones that are getting shared with groups are getting the most seen. So I don't want to share like a random post with a group. So what I was thinking is we sort of need a call to action to get more feedback. So we need, this is just like a mock-up, and this isn't necessarily the final language, but I think we need like a post that makes it seem like has some level of urgency. And, you know, whoever's a wordsmith can make a nice couple of sentences. But I think it's important for people to know that we are going to be voting soon, and that they can find information. And then I'd link to the Facebook page from that post.
Yeah, you might want to say, if I could, you might want to say be voting on whether or not to recommend, so that they realize there's, you know, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
What would be sort of the intent of that? I think Renee had sort of said, you know, we're not that we're done getting feedback, but like, let's just move forward. So I'm just worried that this implies to read and still comment, or say, you know what I mean? I just want to make sure it doesn't read that there's an action for them versus just a heads up that it's happening.
I think it's important that, you know, if people were concerned, that they could sort of voice that to their town. I don't know. You're right. Like if I share it on a site, it could get a lot of hate potentially, right? But like nobody knows, you know, the amount of people that know we exist is very small. And it's, you know, the people who are already really involved in everything, like you know, other people don't even really know, I feel like. Right. And I don't know if you want them to or not, or if we're sort of done with them, like looking for information, but I guess that's just up to the committee. I think if you're not going to get much visibility unless I share something that's a call to action, because people are just inundated with Facebook, and only things that sort of seem to have weight are gonna get visibility.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a call to action because it's informational. Okay. I think that I think it's really important for people to the gist of this is to have them visit the website to learn more about it, you know, and you raised a good point about the cards that are out there. Have they been? Can we play a more active role in as members to, you know, see who has those and make sure they get circulated in some way?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember who I gave them to. I just made sure that there was somebody from each town. I know in Montague we have them at the town hall and at the libraries. Yeah, and I've, you know, put a couple around random places.
Yeah, I put them at the town office and the library also. My question on this, because this comes up anytime an entity is taking a vote, who are we trying to listen to? The people that formed this planning committee? Or are we trying to listen to the general population?
Well,
I'm just making analogy when they were closing the schools. And the select board wanted to have more of a say and they didn't. So I'm just thinking out of the box right now.
so my
What-
response, my response to that, and I see Karen's hand up. My response to that would be that we're listening to everyone, and I think we have been since we started our work. And I've heard people that have told me reasons why it's a good idea and we should be doing more. I've heard people say it's not a good idea and they shared why. And I didn't put them in categories like, okay, you're a board of selectmen or you're a parent or you're a teacher. It was just soliciting a broad amount of information. And so we're representing the people we've heard from, the reports that we've reviewed over the years, the consultants' work. We have that wealth of information, more than any one of those individuals or finite, people who have maybe a piece of information and are sharing their concern or whatever. So I think it's important that when we're voting and when we're deliberating, we are considering all of the feedback, not just from the constituents and stakeholders, but from all the information we've collected over the past 4 years. And with that together, we individually make a decision on whether or not we should go forward and let the townspeople decide if an agreement is reached upon or agreed to the town officials or not. So that's how I would answer it, but I'm open to a different perspective. I think we need to be careful that we're just listening to a couple of people or a stakeholder from a certain group and giving more leverage, because you have so much more information than being in this and so involved. You have a wealth and you need to consider all of that. So
yeah, I'm just talking about the notice, the Facebook notice. Like, is the feedback supposed to come from I don't know, I'm not explaining this right.
well, we're not looking, I don't think we're looking,
Okay.
Michelle, for feedback from this post. We've gotten feedback in different forums from a number of stakeholders. We're giving the select board and finance committees and so forth an opportunity as stakeholders that we haven't focused on soliciting their information, and an opportunity to do that. For me, the idea behind this post is just informational so that people will be aware of, we are voting, but to go to the website and learn more about it so that they understand the complexity of all the work that we've been doing. And so I'm not looking for feedback from these people. Okay, Karen?
Yes, I was just wondering, for those people who haven't been following a lot of this, they may not know that that isn't the final step, writing the regional agreement, that then it goes to all of the towns to vote on and must be approved by all of the towns.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was very interesting that one person, it's usually not a building project this happens, but one of the people at the meeting suggested that why isn't there an all-town meeting where all 6 towns come together? I don't know where they would have that. We'd have to rent some kind of facility, but to have a collective vote. So everybody's hearing what everyone has to say. It was an intriguing idea. I don't know if it's realistic.
No,
Karen, your
I-
hand's still up. You,
yeah,
What?
oh, I'm sorry, I just have trouble when there's something on the board here.
oh,
Yeah.
we can take, oh, no, we want to leave that up. So let's wordsmith for a minute and if we're going to see if we can provide some feedback now that we know what the intent is of this message. This January 6th. And it's also hard to believe with all the articles in the paper, because we've had some really good articles that people are not aware of our work. That I find that
Alan,
interesting.
me too. I'm really disappointed at my network in general. I think I sent 100 requests for people locally, and I thought that was the key. That was everybody getting in and knowing and having the information. But the statistics and what we're seeing as far as reaches, it's a little disheartening that there wasn't that engagement or excitement to at least learn more and click on the things to find out more. Dorinda, did you get any informational questions from the email address that you sent up? Just curious.
I don't have it. No, it just goes to the regular email address, like the one that Greg or Alan would check.
Like Greg's. Greg, have you received anything, any emails or anything? Inquiries?
I mean, this is not, as most of you know, this is not uncommon. I mean, you don't see a lot of public at select board meetings, at town committee meetings, at school committee meetings. It's the nature of the beast right now. It's unfortunate. I'd love to see more people involved in the democratic process, but they're just not. Until there's a vote. Right. Until they realize that, if this moves forward and then the towns are going to vote, and then you're going to find that people are like, well, how come I never knew anything about that? Because they're not looking. They're not actually actively trying to engage. And so even though we can, try to do as much as we want, we put it in newsletters, we do it, we send out notices. It just,
Dorinda, what if this is like a next steps and then it has that we do the vote to recommend, and then what would happen maybe 2 or 3 stages after? Does that feel more appropriate or applicable?
Yeah, we can supplement this with an FAQ about how, like, the rollout, basically. Like, I don't think we have that. Like an FAQ about if a regionalization agreement is drafted, then, what's next. So a vote to recommend, draft an agreement, vote at 6 town meetings, potentially on the same day. So yeah, it would be helpful to have an FAQ about that, and I can put them together with this as sort of like the lead and that as the secondary.
And I would say, what's important is that you're putting this information out now ahead of time, right? I mean, knowing, if there's a vote to recommend, then people are going to get interested, right? Then the news is going to get out that the towns are going to vote. And then they're going to start going to the Facebook page, right? They're not doing it now because we haven't voted to recommend or not recommend. So, once that happens, that's why we're doing this now, because we'll already have things in place. So you're going to get some interest, but after our vote, you'll see one way or another. If we vote to recommend, there'll be a lot more interest.
Yeah, not to make this too busy in your wording, but I think that you could address that where it says agreement for a new combined Pioneer and Gil Montague regional agreement. Well, be drafted to potentially go to the voters for action or for consideration, to be voted on, to go to the voters for their consideration. Just a couple other words that finishes the process.
Well, then it would make it sound like it's going to the people of the town, which it's not. It would be going to town meeting. So we need like another sentence. I think,
well, no, you could say then going to town meeting for a vote. You could let them know that the next step would be, and potentially go to a town meeting, be put on a town meeting for a vote.
Yeah. Well, I could do like a second page too, like of this same thing, like Or I could drop the last sentence and put the last sentence in like below or something in words.
I don't think you have to worry about that because you're first setting up a potential regional agreement. You have people under contract until June 30th. And to think that their report is going to be out with a regional agreement, a new regional agreement, is probably ludicrous. So the vote is going to be next year's town meeting, not this year's town meeting. And that's a lot of time for people to get excited.
So Bill, on that point, I followed up because of a couple things going on. One of them is there is information that tells you, that outlines really clearly, these are the statutory obligations that need to be in a regional agreement. You also have Southern Berkshires that has worked, and that didn't pass, but they went through the process of having a regional agreement, put in place. I also called someone who does this and said, is it feasible to, in 3 or 4 months, working with town officials or whoever, you'd probably representatives for a school committee and so forth, to put together a regional agreement? And the answer was, it is possible. So I think that when we were at our meeting, it was being, the comments that were made from some of the participants were making it seem much more complicated than it is, because one could look at it, for example,
Alan,
a
Alan,
larger.
I want to interrupt just because
Yeah.
Karen has a question. I'm sorry, but you're talking a lot and I want to make sure we have room
Yeah.
for other people. Thank you.
Okay, Karen?
I went to a session at the MASC conference a couple of weeks ago where I ran into you a couple of times. And they said it took 10 months to draft their regional agreement, and that was like a record time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just like to preface that it's not, it wouldn't have to wait for the annual town meeting in the following year. This can be voted on a special town meeting. It could happen, it could happen, like if it started in January, it could happen in the fall.
I didn't mean to be absolute in my statement. I agree, but my point was it's not going to. Alan just said 3 or 4 months. We're not even doing this until January, and 3 or 4 months gets you right up there to June, which is after all our town meetings. So
you're correct, Bill, because in that I misspoke in that it's going to take a month to get an RF proposal out and then get a response. So
Right.
You're correct. You're correct.
I'd just like to say that DESI has a really great booklet now for district agreements, and they list all the things, what is state statute. So it's, because I'm working on Pioneer.
I will say
we have a subcommittee working on the district agreement right now.
Michelle, I spoke with someone
Yes.
from the Berkshire and Southern Berkshire districts today. They're willing absolutely to share the regional agreement that they drafted, that they presented to their towns for a vote. So that would be very helpful to be able to see that, because they just went through this, which is the same process that we're going through. So if we did vote to recommend, we could use theirs as a template.
Okay.
The statutory stuff.
I've lost track of where we are.
We're at the end
so
of
public
the bottom of
relations.
PR.
Anything else in public relations? Let's go back to Jennifer. Did you have anything to add, and Dorinda?
No, I just was noticing a couple posts that had the most traction, and there's upwards of 300. I mean, there's two posts I think that had like 250 in terms of views and things of that nature. So I
No.
believe one of them, I'm more of an app scroll than on the thing. It was one of the FAQ ones for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there was a, go ahead.
I think that's because of the sharing. Like, it's saying who did it reach? Like, these 255 people scrolled past it in, in whatever group, in like your Facebook friends or like the Positively Gail Montague group.
Yeah.
This one I'd probably put on that the Greenfield moms one, because that also has other local moms and is sort of has more views. I mean, we could share it wherever. It doesn't. There's more. It's very generic, and so I think like the fewer words and keep it more generic and just it's a post to sound important and make people click a link to go to the other page.
Cool.
There are also sporting events and outdoor activities that kids are participating in. Maybe that's an opportunity to be passing out cards to parents and people in the public. Just a thought.
Yeah.
All
Or
right,
do
well,
we
thank you.
save that for, if we do vote to move forward, then to everyone's point, people have more interest and need the information more possibly. So
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Raina, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment about the post. I would just suggest that you put the website web address on
Like at the bottom or
link
something.
there somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I've had the experience of Googling it and it doesn't come up
No.
for some reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. All right, I guess this is almost the last item.
We got
So,
two more.
we got
Vernon,
pace.
and then we got,
What do you have?
there's Vernon next, and then there's the Pioneer School Committee.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Vernon.
Yeah, no, Raina, I'm not sure if you type in STRBB, for me, it comes right up first thing in the Google search. I'm not sure why that's.
Okay, yeah, maybe I've Googled Six Town or something and all right. So
Okay.
it's the key.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I did try to, I went up to Vernon and there, I think it was just a bad time. It was right before Thanksgiving and, I wound up having a nice chat with the principal of the elementary school up there, and she got the information, but she sent it out to the district. But I think it's not that surprising considering the low engagement right now and our public bodies right now. But I also think that maybe they just see it as it's not, they're going to have to accept whatever comes their way, but I don't know. But okay, I mean, that's all I have for now. I mean, we can, we may hear from them after our vote.
Yeah, okay, well, then the next item was just the Pioneer School Committee had this on their calendar, or on their agenda, which I was surprised when I saw it and it said vote next to it. So that certainly got my attention. So I did reach out to the chair and she, informed me that it was on there, but there wasn't going to be a vote or maybe that was just to as a placeholder, because sometimes they have taken action and they didn't have it on it and got in trouble or whatever. So for whatever reason, it got my attention because it had us on it and it said vote. So, I was kind of disappointed I didn't get wasn't informed of that. And if they were going to have a discussion on it, I would have loved to have been there in case there were questions. Although we have one of the greatest representations on our committee as the school committee representation, which we're very fortunate. And Pioneer actually has the greatest representation out of all the stakeholders that we have on our board. So I was disappointed in that, and I was also it bothered me that the superintendent had come out at a public meeting and opposed regionalization, and had taken information off of the Abrams report, which wasn't finalized, because we had asked them to do some additional assessments based on feedback that we got from Joanne Blyer and some others. And so to me, taking information from another board and putting it in a presentation on a Pioneer budget, and then it seemed to the information seemed to not be presented in a flattering way in terms of influence, the impact it would have financially. And this was enlightened. So when I knew about that first, and then I saw it on the agenda, it got my attention. So I did have the opportunity to then go back and watch the meeting. Greg did that as well. And there were a few members on the Pioneer Committee that had some comments that I found troubling, maybe lack of information. But I want to be clear that this is not, this was not a reflection on the entire committee. It was some individual people. So I want to just be clear about that. Greg, you said you wanted to address some of the things that you had watched.
Yeah, I mean, I was, I was more than disappointed. I was very dismayed by some of the comments. After talking with someone involved in the Berkshire and Southern Berkshire district merger that failed in the spring, he expressed that when they voted to recommend and move forward with a district agreement, and then said that things got very weird because there was one school committee that was not interested in merging, and he said they basically followed three playbooks to try and discourage people. One was attack the data and their information, which has happened already, and through that public meeting, through Patricia Kinsella. She cherry-picked data and recontextualized it in a way that was not not a reflection of what we're trying to report out. Two, then they went after the planning board that represented the Berkshire and Southern Berkshire districts, and went after the planning board, and went after them personally, but also went after them as a board, as if they're trying to accuse them of undercutting the school committee's work. And then finally, they moved on to creating fear. And he said those were the three things that eventually caused the vote to fail. And he also said that there is now voter remorse, and that they're getting calls. He is someone that was involved in it, is getting calls after the fact. And they're, it's almost like Brexit. They're sort of regretting that decision. So I'm going to put that right out there. As far as the comments that were made, I spent a lot of time, because I've spent a lot of time, as you all know, on trying to serve these towns, all 6 towns, including the Pioneer District, and not receiving any compensation for this. And what I saw in the meeting was a misrepresentation of our work. And either it didn't address what we were trying to, what the information we're trying to get out. So I have prepared something, and I will read it now, because I think it's very important to set the record straight. So I will read this, if you will all listen and bear with me. It'll take a little bit, but I wrote, at the end of the November 16th Pioneer Regional School Committee meeting, it was noted that the meeting did not focus much on the planning board's work, but rather on the merits of the financial position of the Pioneer District, and that the comments and questions raised in the meeting would be brought to the planning board's next meeting. So this is the purpose of this response. Please note, since this is a public meeting, that this is not a response from the six-town regionalization planning board, but from me, one member, with the hopes of having more discussion. I would like to preface this by saying I was very disappointed with the school committee's discussion about the planning board's work at their November 16th meeting. My responses are in regard to a few school committees' comments and not the full school committee. The focus of the discussion was not on the STRPB, but was primarily focused on the Pioneer District itself. There was no mention of Gil-Montague anywhere in the comments, and Gil-Montague is the district that has been gracious enough to help us facilitate the grants that have supported our work in service to all 6 towns that agreed to work together in looking at what might be possible with a potential merger. Watching the video, it seemed apparent that given the comments made and the notation of the agenda that there would be a vote on the 6-town regionalization planning board. This was concerning to me because we haven't voted on our recommendation yet. The planning board should also be concerned that the Pioneer School District Superintendent recently took a position publicly against regionalization and cherry-picked our data from a report done by the Abrahams Group to influence the audience at a Pioneer budget presentation given to one of the 6 towns prior to the meeting with town officials that we had scheduled for November 14th. Considering the context, this begs the question as to whether the superintendent's actions were even ethical in the eyes of the state. I expect the State Board of Ethics might have advised her to only take a public position if the school committee had already voted on the 6 towns' work, and then only after the planning board had voted to recommend or not. I would also remind the Pioneer School Committee, and I do mean the entire school committee, that our board voted unanimously already to endorse the educational findings in our research. If the vote, as noted from the Pioneer School Committee agenda, was not the intention, was the purpose of all the rhetoric expressed during the school committee's meeting to lay the foundation for a vote at an upcoming meeting. The video recording shows at least one Pioneer School Committee member expecting a vote that evening. Anyway, I'm going to move on. In response to the initial comments made from the school district's administration, yes, there's no doubt that smaller and larger districts or schools can do great things, and most schools believe they are doing great things. As an example, most people would agree you can have excellent teachers and instruction in both small and large schools. However, to give just one example, which we have been emphasizing all along, what you don't have in a small high school, for example, is the in-seat critical mass of students to offer the same educational opportunities as a larger school. A small school cannot offer the same amount of opportunities for academic departments to have more teachers and colleagues, more courses, create more flexibility in scheduling, share more knowledge and best practices, and engage in more curriculum, co-curriculum, and activities that directly benefit students. I know this firsthand. I still question why the school committee discussion focused primarily on the financial health of the Pioneer District. And yet the stated agenda topic was supposed to be about the 6-town regionalization planning board's work. Most of the discussion entailed members expressing reasons why Pioneer Valley Regional School District should remain a small and some might even say tiny, scrappy school district. The first comments expressed by the administration were about being grateful for the state stepping in to oversee the financial matters of the district, having more ESSER funds, and the state providing additional aid to support smaller districts. It was not a discussion of the STRPB, nor did it acknowledge the real educational liabilities and what I call the opportunity cost that students face with low and declining enrollment, as noted by a recent graduate, senior, and student representative from Pioneer at the school committee's own April 13th meeting back in the spring. As far as Pioneer's financial position, I will say as a select board, townspeople don't necessarily view returning tax dollars from the district's E&D as being something to hold up its financial success. Residents would prefer to put their money into their own private investment and not have it held and then returned to the town months or even a year later through E&D surpluses because the district's budget projections were too high. For a school district, or even a town for that matter, in regard to their free cash, budgeting too much can be just as problematic as budgeting too little and doesn't gain the trust of the townspeople. What we know is more funds alone cannot fix the challenges or opportunities costs caused by low and declining enrollment. So a discussion about the great things happening in Pioneer Valley is not the proper framing of our work here on the planning board. Our work, as already expressed, is about what a district can offer with the budget it has within the constraints of its enrollment. Maybe Pioneer Valley Regional School District can reduce the financial burden on towns by constructing new buildings to resolve an increasing cost of aging infrastructure, but that doesn't address the district's enrollment projections. Enrollment trends do not appear to be increasing, which is why both Gil Montague and Pioneer districts find themselves in this respective situation. I can't emphasize enough that sustainability is not just about finances. As we have made abundantly clear, it is more about educational opportunities that we can provide for our students. Even though merging the two districts would create a larger student population by state standards, it would still be small. Recently, a report from the FERCog projects that within the next 10 years, 34% of the population in Western Mass will be over age 65. In the feedback from the STRPB's forum and reports given by our consultants, the students, teachers, staff, and administrators all agreed that the increase in enrollment and accompanying educational opportunities by merging the district would be significant. Understandably, there's been concern over homogeneous and heterogeneous educational philosophies. In one of the STRPB teachers forum, which I attended, this was brought up and noted by teachers of both districts that they thought a new district could provide a blend of these philosophies and that they might coexist. That was by both teachers in both districts. Sorry, both districts. I'm not sure what answer we can provide as a planning board and to that question of philosophies, because we are not in a position to speak on an issue that rightfully belongs in the hands of educators and administrators of a potentially new formed district. From the comments made in the school committee, I can't help but wonder why they are potentially creating fear around something that hasn't happened, nor is there any indication that either philosophy would be lost. One of the Pioneers school committee members commented that the STRPB's data didn't point to a clear direction or solution for the districts, and then went on to say that he didn't see there was a problem that needed to be solved. After almost 30 years of declining enrollment, I'm not sure how this problem can be ignored. As to whether there is a clear direction for districts, members of the 6-town regionalization planning board will have their own opinions, but our findings have already been pointed to the significant educational offerings. What emerged from our research was a cost-benefit analysis that takes into account financial and educational impacts. Again, the planning board members, including the school committee member reps that are on this board, already voted unanimously to accept our published findings of the significant increases in educational benefits. The problem to be solved should be evident after 30 years of declining enrollment. It seemed odd that in the discussion that's supposed to be about our work, that these school committee members spent so much time on the many strengths of Pioneer District and completely missed or ignored the enrollment elephant in the room. Neither Pioneer nor Gil Montague have strong enrollments, especially at the middle and high school. Both districts have seen a decline overall of almost 50% in their overall enrollments and over 50% declines in middle and high school enrollments. This should not be described as a strength. A school committee member went on to say that his understanding was districts don't merge when they are doing well, and that the regionalization happens for financial reasons. That is not accurate and shows a lack of understanding of our work. Looking more carefully at our research, the person would have immediately understood that the financials are only one variable in the equation. What I did learn from this video was that the Pioneer Regional School Committee's own planning process, because of the state's intervention, has mostly been focused on its financials and not the educational challenges of structural declines in enrollment. The opinion expressed that times are different now and seem to be much better were clearly tied to the finances and not the educational opportunities that potentially could be lost or that are lost already. The liabilities are those costs for our students. Is the Pioneer School District enrollment significantly better? Does it offer enough courses to provide the kind of flexibility and schedule that larger schools enjoy? Were the sports programs and extracurricular programs that were offered years ago when enrollment was higher a waste of time and money? I think we all know it wasn't, and the students benefited greatly. When a school committee member asks a question regarding what are the liabilities of the planning board continuing its work, I have to wonder why this question was even asked. We have been charged by the 6 towns to comprehensively research, report, and give them a recommendation on the feasibility of a proposed merger. There is no liability in our recommendation. I would ask, what is the school committee's and administration's liability of letting the people of our towns decide for themselves? Isn't that what democracy is all about? The main concern expressed by these committee members about our work boiled down to 3 main points: the fear of losing school identity, the uncertainty that our work would create, and that our work would, in quotes, burn the school committee's work to the ground. If one doesn't understand the problem a merged district could potentially solve, then one needs to revisit the declining enrollments that have affected both districts and all the programs and services over the past 3 decades. Uncertainty is a part of life. And although analogy the committee member gave about New England patriots was funny, a better analogy might be, what if the real patriots back in 1700s decided not to fight for a new identity, a new country that would expand our opportunities because they thought it would be better not to create uncertainty. To say the STRPB is creating a drag on the school district was yet another unfair and incorrect statement. It presumptively contradicts the actions and goals set forth by town vote in all 6 towns. Our meeting on November 14 with town officials only reinforced that the towns are interested in our findings and our recommendation. Again, to address the remark that the STRPB could potentially burn down everything the school committee has worked towards, well, nothing is being burned down. This is actually just hyperbole. It's not helpful, and it's not in the service of our townspeople. The town people could look or can look at the work of the school committee and our research and decide what's best for themselves. The same committee member also stated that our work felt unfair and that they didn't have a voice in this process while simultaneously expressing her voice in a public school meeting. The contradiction should be self-evident. The STRPB's meetings have been posted and open to the public, and we have encouraged all stakeholders to attend. We have continued to invite both superintendents to all our meetings, but only the Gil Montague superintendent has attended our meetings in the past. It's worth mentioning that the Pioneer School Committee school committee has 4 members on the planning board, which constitutes the most representation of any public body, including any of the 6 towns. A member of our planning board who is on the school committee was correct when she expressed that the work that we are doing is not a referendum on the school committee's work, and that the 6-town regionalization planning board's work initially began with Gil Montague superintendent Michael Sullivan, who was concerned about the impact of the district's finances and reduction of programs on students. But he was certainly not the origin of these concerns. The townspeople have been working on these challenges for decades. Even prior to the formation of our planning board, we had the Gil Montague civic leaders, and Pioneer towns had the Heart Committee. This work didn't come about suddenly. What Michael Sullivan did offer was one potential way to address and mitigate these challenges. So I applaud the school committee this member for getting to the crux of the real challenge when she emphasized that it was Pioneer's enrollment problem. The decline in enrollment has increased per pupil costs, created diseconomies of scale, and forced districts into hold harmless, receiving minimum aid. This member also asked a very relevant question in regard to our work. Is the potential 6-town district large enough? In that respect, I would also ask the Pioneer Regional School Committee, is building more buildings and infrastructure within a very small district that is already challenged by structural declines in enrollment the answer? Both are excellent questions. Another Pioneer Valley School Committee member commented that they didn't know of people who are rushing to a larger enrollment environment. But in fact, that is exactly what's happening at Pioneer, especially at the high school. Students have been choosing to choice out, and in most cases to larger schools and districts. The school committee seems to have missed the point when speaking about being small and scrappy and financially solvent. If the focus is primarily on finances, perhaps the question might be, how much per pupil cost would the Pioneer Valley School Committee like the townspeople to pay in relation to the programmatic offerings the school can provide with the size of its enrollment. If the belief is that a small school attracts more students, this is an inherent contradiction because Pioneers Valley enrollment is not growing. I hope this response addresses the questions, issues, and concerns that were raised at the Pioneer School Committee meeting. It's unfortunate that some of these comments were made because this is not a reflection on our work. We should all be working together and not against each other in our service to our 6 towns. Thank you.
Greg, could I just point out that I know that wasn't the intent, but you know, throughout the presentation, or your comments, it was using the phrase the school committee. There are 9 members on the school committee, and
Yeah,
I don't know, I think I saw 3 of them, and you made that clear. So I just want to go back and make that clear. I think that the other members were listening to what was being said, and you know, that may not have felt that they had enough information to jump into the conversation, or just chose not to. But you know, I appreciate your remarks. Also, Raina, I think we elevated you to a school committee status. Is she still here?
I think you're Renee.
Renee.
Sorry. Yeah, I wanted to just point of clarification. I'm not sure where you're going with that statement. I agree with all of it. But I am not a school committee member. I sit at the table as a PVREA, the union co-president. So that's my role at the table, and I can, per our bargaining agreement, can sit at the table and offer perspective to the committee. I'm not a voting member.
Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it.
All right, any other follow-up comments?
Well, I would just like to note that I have been bothered by all of the celebration around the financial success of Pioneer. And it is my strong opinion that you have to be incompetent today in government or education to be running in the red with all of the money that's been coming at us. And for example, Warwick made an assessing mistake a couple of years ago, and our elderly assessor's clerk, knowing her business very well, excluded enterprise fund income from the tax recap and then subtracted it. And as a result, Warwick undertaxed by $2 a thousand, and we have a tax rate of $21 a thousand. We undertaxed by $2 a thousand, and nobody noticed. And at the end of the year, we noticed because we had to reconcile, and we had undertaxed by $150,000 on a $2 million budget, and we still had a surplus. Because it was the beginning of COVID and we were so underspending, and everybody was. Not only did we underspend in government and schools, with schools closed, etc., then we started to see an avalanche of money coming at us. So being flush with cash right now is not hard to do. Not taking the organization down in the coming years because of reliance on this flood is something, but to say, oh, we're in a position to wipe out this, what's left of this $500,000 borrowing, is quite offensive to me. It just, so I don't fault for returning money. That's the rules, but it was hard not to see a surplus in the last couple of years.
All right, thank you. Bill, you had your hand.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Greg, for your very comprehensive point-by-point response. Basically, overall, I agree with Renee that it's time to come to a vote. And then secondly, I want to say I did watch the video of that school committee, the pertinent part of that school committee meeting. The business manager talked for 15 minutes about absolutely nothing. Other than his praise for the administration and how proud he was to work there. But I was surprised at the comment of the individual who said she had no voice. And I appreciate that the members of this committee reminded her that 3 of them were sitting right there. And what is a voice other than, does that same individual think that all the people that elected her have no voice because they're not sitting at the table? She's their representative. And then beyond that, I thought the drag on the district work comments were totally out of place. And I think people have heard enough negativity, so I'll stop. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? I, as you know, I work real hard. Sometimes I fail to keep this to an hour, 2 hours, and we're starting to move into that. So I'll entertain any other comments you want to make, and then a motion to adjourn. Karen?
Yeah, I just have a technical financial question. It's about E&D, and I really don't know the answer. Both districts showed a healthy E&D this past cycle, apparently. Is there a maximum you're allowed to carry over or use?
5%.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't go beyond
Oh.
5% of your operating budget, and then it has to be returned to the towns, usually in the form of a reduced assessment, but they don't write out a check.
Yeah.
So in combining those hefty E&Ds, I think one was 450,000 and one was close to 400,000. Would those were counted as revenues in the calculations? Would all of that have been legal?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this was over a couple of years. It wasn't over 1 year, 3 years.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
go back and look at that, but that wasn't my understanding.
Karen,
were taking-
You don't get $3 million in a year.
No,
Karen,
that's what I was talking about.
Karen, it's similar to
400
it's similar to free cash in town hall, in
Yeah.
your town government. You don't, if you're running a lot of free cash, it means you're basically just taking in a lot of tax dollars that are sitting in accounts for the town. And,
Right.
people get frustrated with that.
I'm sure.
They want it budgeted correctly. They don't want too much in free cash.
Right.
Yeah, what's supposed to catch that, Karen, is that regional school districts are obligated every year to have an audit done. And that audit
Yeah,
is usually
do.
shared with the general public. I remember when I was on the Pioneer Committee, the auditors actually came to the meeting, and because it's your budget, and
Right.
reviewed that whole auditor's report. So that should be caught along the way in each year. So I don't know.
Okay.
If you haven't had an opportunity to see those audit reports over the last couple of years, I think that would be your source document you'd want to take a look at.
Yeah, I was just questioning when the 2 1-year budgets were combined and the 2 1-year revenues were combined, would we have exceeded what you were allowed to keep? I didn't know if it was a dollar amount, but you just explained it was a percentage, so now I understand.
Yep.
So it would be applied to the new entity's budget.
Right. Got it.
Raina, you have your hand up. Hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to also comment, just in terms of, Pioneer's long-term fiscal. I mean, you were mentioning the, the audits, and prior to the current financial director, the audits were at least a year behind. So they weren't completed on time. So, we finally have someone with some competence. I mean, I beg to differ with you know, I know that there's a lot of money a lot of money that came to us during COVID, and it made it easier to balance the budget. But there's a lot more financial competence going on in the last couple of years with the current financial director. So, I do think that's something to celebrate. But I also wanted to just say, in terms of the superintendent, you've asked the current superintendent several times to weigh in on her thoughts about further regionalization, and she's now getting criticism for having weighed in. And she did consult with the state ethics board and got conflicting information from the state ethics board. Got one story once, and then a different story when she went back and asked again. So. I really have to defend her and say she's not covering her tracks. She was trying to act in the best interest of her district. And she will not be offering any more further opinions about anything related to this planning board. That's been clear.
We have asked for her input. She hasn't given us input. She gave input to Leiden in a public meeting about a topic that had nothing to do with us. So I'm sorry if I have to question her motives, but I question her motives. So she publicly stated that she was against a regionalization. She's stepping outside of her bounds. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we've beat that to death. Raina, I just want to point out, to be clear, when I was asking for her to weigh in, I was assuming she was following our research. And I wasn't asking her to take a position for or against. What I was hoping was that she would talk about some of the merits that we were doing, some of the areas she thought that we could do more research on, some of the assumptions that we had. That was the feedback that I was looking for, not for her to make a position for or against it. I thought I made that clear, but apparently not. So I just want to make that clear to you. That's what I was looking for. And when it was on the agenda, because you were kind enough to put that on the agenda as a routine, which I very much appreciated, and I would give an update. I was looking at that as an opportunity for any school committee member to ask questions or to make comments or to share concerns or whatever. So I was hoping that would happen after I gave an update, and you would pause and see if there was anything that anyone wanted to follow up on. And I really appreciated that. And then we moved to the next item. So there were opportunities that you provided on the agenda for feedback. And I want to recognize you for that, because that was not the case in a previous chair long before you were on, or the chair before you even. It was in a previous time with a different school committee. So thank you for that. Jennifer?
Yeah, so I just want to call out that it feels a little bit like retaliation to somebody who doesn't agree with your point of view. And I just want to be very aware if we're trying to still solicit feedback. And then we have a recorded version basically stating bad things about the person and persons who are against you is not a good look, I don't think, for the board in general. And to assume that somebody is misinformed or has not received all of the information because they don't agree with you also is harmful.
I would respond that I'm trying to clarify our position. The comments that were made were not coming from our reports. The superintendent cherry-picked data from our reports and recontextualized it. It was not something that.
Oh, I meant the meeting in general. Excuse me. I'm talking about the meeting in general.
Even the meeting. When you say that we are as a planning board, mind you, let's be clear. These are committee members that came out in public. Now, and I'm, as a committee member, am coming out in public as well. Now, I have not made this personal. I will say people on the Pioneer Valley School Committee and the superintendent have made it personal, right? So you may be seeing what I'm coming at as a member of this board, basically trying to correct the information and correct our position, because we've always said that it's not strictly about finances. And they continue to keep coming out and saying it's about finances. That was absolutely in the meeting. I'm correcting the information. It's not just about finances. It's about our students and our student body and our enrollment. And those kids are, if you go back and watch the April 13th, this shouldn't be about me or the other committee members. It should be about our students and the quality and what we can offer them and our quality of education. So I'm sorry, but I am not, after hearing what's going on in the Southern Berkshire District and the maneuvering of what I consider to be politicizing this in a way that, are we not all supposed to be working together? Can we not chew gum and walk at the same time? Can they not look at whatever the school committee is putting forth? Good for them. I think they should. If the public wants to go that direction, that should be their choice. But the liability is not coming from our recommendation. The liability would be if the townspeople decide to not vote in their direction or our direction, or maybe they want something completely different. Let the townspeople decide. We're here to serve them, not to serve our own agendas. I'm not here to serve my own agenda. I don't make any money at this. Some people that are talking do, and their jobs are on the line, potentially. So that should always be in the background.
I have a real problem with this line of disqualification. When I was a select board member in the 80s, somebody tried to sue me and my fellow select board members and take our houses. But their real intention was to keep us from speaking on the controversial subject. And maybe there's special privilege that accrues to speaking at town meeting as opposed to participating in your job. But folks, this is politics. There's no politicizing this. This is politics. Politics is how we divide up our scarce societal resources. And we do so through a democratic process. And it may not always be pretty, and we can decry the lack of respect or hurt feelings or whatever, but this is politics, and it's going to get even more bare knuckle. I personally appreciate folks not having secret agendas. The fact that the superintendent is out and oppositional, I would rather see that and know what I'm dealing with than to have people running around on the sly. So I, for some reason, have been with this process for what, 4 years? And I'll make it to the Wednesday meeting. I can't imagine any of us who've been engaged in this process voting against recommending bringing this forward. But there's going to be a lot of turmoil.
Yeah. And to be really clear on this, I believe that the people that spoke at the Pioneer meeting were sincere, that had their own convictions, and they were sharing and expressing their opinions. And I applaud that. I do not have an issue with that. What the issue I had was, if more information was available or they had researched it, they may not have been making, those comments. And that they should have a voice. They should be able to express themselves at a meeting, but there also should be, if it's not factual information or there are issues with it, there's nothing wrong with them saying, I think here are some points that you missed. So we're probably in the beginning of engaging a lot of different opinions. And let's use this as a learning opportunity to think about how we want to respond to folks that have a different point of view, whether they be supporting our point of view or not, whatever that may be. So let's sort of challenge ourselves to do that in a really a professional way and take the high road. I guess that would be my ending comment.
I'd just like to make a comment that I think we need to stick to the data and stick to the information that we have. And no one should be trying to interpret the interpretation. It was given to us very clearly what the Abrahams group has done over the years. You know, this is very hard. Probably hasn't been done many times. And are we 100% right? No. But let's just focus on the data and the kids, as Greg said. We need to look at the future and education for our children. And, you know, we just have to focus on that. I try and do that all the time, and we just keep getting away from this.
Yep.
So that's
Okay.
all I want to say.
All right, well, then you will have the last word. Thank you, Michelle, for those ending comments. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, and we'll have to take a roll call vote. Anyone want to make that motion?
I'll motion to adjourn. This is Jen Coffin.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Second,
So Jennifer and then Michelle. And Greg, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Alan Genovese.
Yes.
All right. Jennifer Coffin.
Yes, yes.
Pat Shearer.
Pat, you're muted. Still muted.
Can you give a thumbs up?
What
How about yeah, I was doing the same thing. I was doing the same thing, Jennifer.
Karen?
All
right, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Karen O'Neill.
Yes.
Christy Solda.
Yes.
Bill Toom.
Yes.
Dorinda Bellop.
Yes.
David. Go move on.
Yes.
Michelle.
yes.
Raina.
Yes.
And Renee.
Yes.
And
And you
yes.
and Greg's yes. All right, it is I guess 6:33. Thank you for your participation, and I guess we will be seeing you all on January 3rd. At,
Yeah.
Have a great
6 a.m.
holiday, everybody.
Yes.
Same to you.
Enjoy the holidays.